Welcome to Go for CEO, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Really an exciting time today because today I get to actually interview a friend, someone that I've known for 20 plus years. I've seen this guy, from afar grow, been connected to him in different ways and his journey of being a singer and just someone in high school that we knew each other, then get out, then, just kind of transform his life and really become someone that I've really appreciated through some of the journeys that he's doing. And that the Go for CEO community is about learning startup businesses to 25 million in revenue. We really want to share the story of how they're marketing, how they're scaling, how they're doing the operations of their business. And today is a really cool one because it's totally different than some of you guys have seen on some of the other interviews. And I hope that you'll enjoy it and you'll really appreciate how this business is something that is a labor of love. So I won't steal any more thunder, but Mr. Chris Torrizano, thank you so much for coming on the Go for CEO channel, my man.
Right on, man. Thanks for having me, John. It'd be fun to talk to you in a different light here a little bit.
Definitely. So excited to kind of share that with you. I got to plug this in because I forgot the anchor side of things. But so, it's called T-Bone Guide Service, right? That's the full name of the business, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, and obviously I could see kind of the Garon right now as far as just the woodsy and stuff. I know that you've always been someone that has been outdoorsy. You've got this background with your grandparents, I believe, and your grandfather, just this bond about fishing. And today we're going to talk about, how did you create a business out of something that you truly loved and actually get to do it on a daily basis. In fact, just recently you had someone famous on your boat, which is really cool. But let's start with just a little bit of background, a little bit of who you are, where you're at right now, and kind of that labor, that love that became a labor of love. So.
Right on, man. Yeah, you know what? I mean, I was blessed enough to have a grandfather who got me interested in fishing, as a really young child at 3 years old, which, by the way, I'm doing now with my 3-year-old. And it's one of those things like, like music or anything else. I mean, once you find that love, you could do it for the rest of your life. It's not something that, it has a very short time in life to do it. I mean, you could fish from the age 3 till the age 93. So, I was blessed enough to have that. And then he took me all over the Midwest, basically. And I fished with him everywhere, learned all kinds of different lakes and techniques. And then, I mean, he was no professional fisherman, but he had a love for it too. So he actually propelled me into getting into like certain clubs. And then I went to like camps with guys that were professionals that I used to watch on TV, so I made a huge journey around the Midwest fishing with my old man, which, at the time it was never one of those things where I was like training to be a guide in training or anything like that, or a professional fisherman. It was just something that, excuse me, that I had a love for and a passion for, and I got to learn from a lot of really good guys that are, even to this day, Hall of Fame kind of people in the fishing industry. And, I could say that I fished with those guys, and I still do. There's a guy in the fishing industry named Spence Petros who only lives about 10 minutes from my house. And, he's now 80 years old. And, but he's like my uncle now, like literally, like, whenever I have a question about the business or fishing or anything, I call him and he kind of dials me in on things. And he kind of took the place of the old man a little bit, man, because he's very, very much like him, where he has no filter. He's like an old school Chicago Greek, and anything that goes through the brain box comes out the mouth, and there's no filter in between. And I like that because that's how my old man was. And when I screw something up, he's first one to tell me, and when I do something well, he's the first one to tell me. So, I've just had the opportunity to meet a lot of really good people and do a lot of cool things. So it really prepped me for getting into something like this. Just like kids who start playing baseball at 3 years old, and then you hear these success stories about how they became professional athletes, and it had nothing to do with them training to become a professional athlete at 3 years old. It's just the passion you take on doing this, and luckily I got to turn this into something that I love as a job, and help a lot of young kids and even older gentlemen propel their fishing to another level.
Wow. And you said something very key, not only in childhood did you have a mentor, and someone that guided you, no pun intended, right? But then now you have someone that has taken over as more of an uncle version, and you find these people in business and in life that if you're open to it and you stay coachable, you've been able to gain a lot of knowledge from them. So thanks for sharing that part. What so you're fishing during your early days of life, and you're learning all this stuff. So take us through that kind of that switch of where you go, wait a second, I've actually got a business here and I can make money doing this. What was that transition, and how did you set it up? What was the kind of the tools of the puzzle that you put together to actually start in business with T-Bone?
It's a good question. Honestly, man, it was kind of one of those things that, it wasn't a huge plan. I'd love to sit here and tell you that I had this giant plan, formulated in my head. And the truth is, it became a little bit more out of desperation. I mean, I've been an electrician for, at that time, 12 years, and I was a union electrician. And, the economy in the late 2000, 2008, 9 got really tough. And the money wasn't there like it had been, the 8, 9, 10 years prior, where I was making, pretty good money, and being able to have a little bit of spending money. And it got tough. So, I had to formulate something. I had to come up with something where I knew I could pay the bills now, and I'm like, all right, I know how to do a couple things here. I know how to, do electrical. I know how to play baseball. I know how to, fish. Obviously, I know how to sing. Which one of these what can I do right now? Make some money, and it really started out I was just working, a little side gig at a bait store locally, and guys were coming in and they were like, oh, we didn't catch anything today. And I would just be like, well, I was out earlier, and, I caught this. And then it came to the point where guys were like, I'll pay you a couple $100 if you want to take me out, because I don't ever catch nothing. And I'm like, yeah, dude, we could do that. At that time, a couple $100 was, groceries. So I was like, yeah, we could do that. And it got to the point, excuse me, where, the word of mouth, these guys were telling their friends, and I was like, man, now I'm working 3 days a week, making, a couple $100 a day cash. Bet you if I really put my mind to this and, get licensed and do all the right things here, I could probably do okay. And what it comes down to, like, any other business, man, you're a little bit married to it. You have to be able to put in the time, and you want to have, you want to be the best. It's your business. It's your baby. Right. So, I knew that once I got in and I was like, all right, I'm going to get my license. I'm going to do all the things that I need to do, that I don't want to just be a guide. I don't want to be just a dude who's making a couple extra bucks, $100 here and there. Now I want to be the best guide. Right? I want to be the best guide I could be. And hopefully at some point, one of those guys that, goes down in 50 years. And man, remember that guy, Chris, man, that dude was a great guy, and so that was kind of the way I approached it. I didn't just go in, half-assed with it. So, I went in and I bought a new boat, bought a new truck, got the whole thing kind of going, and, that was all that money I had, excuse me, left over from like the union. So I pretty much dumped everything into one jar, I'm like, all right, this better work, because if not, I'm going to be living in my garage or someone else's garage pretty soon. So I had to make it work. I had, at that time I was not married yet, but I was engaged and I needed to make some things happen. So, I mean, I just kind of started doing my thing and doing a little bit of promotional work, but a lot of it initially came word of mouth, and I was probably working 3-4 days a week, and it kept me held over. And then, from there, I started to understand the business, because Spence was like, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And I started to follow those. And you had brought up a really good point earlier about, mentors and being coachable. And that's in any aspect of your life. If you become uncoachable and if you think that you just know too much, you're going to be stuck, man, because there's always people that can help you and have done more and better than you have at whatever you've done, and that's it, whether it's a business, it's sports, it's being a dad, I mean, you got to listen and take the advice from people who've done it. And, that's who I've become. Like, I've realized that in my life, that, you got to listen to people that know what the hell they're talking about, instead of being too proud, and just doing your thing. So I really listened to what he had to say. And, he gave me a road to success. And, I mean, by no means am I a millionaire by doing this, but it has provided for my family. It's made a good living for me, and um, there's a lot to it. Obviously, I've been going, 10 years strong and going on my 11th year of it. So, it's definitely become something where I have a little bit more money in the pocket.
That's all.
It can end up being a good thing.
Hey, and you're setting up that journey, right? I hope people are listening and replaying that, right? You were coachable. You actually took your ego out of it, right? And because you had some I guess life experience that you could transition and say, hey, I'm good at this, and then you had the attitude of an all-in business owner, which is huge. Take me back a little bit. So walk me through. You had some savings. You didn't do a loan, is what I'm assuming, just so we kind of clear that part. Is no loans to start this business. You took some savings. You
Yeah.
dumped it into a boat, because I know nowadays I see with some sponsorship and some things that you have available to you. But so you have that. Did you already choose a location? How did you start to set up, like, okay, my time frame? From the people that are asking to come on board. Did you set them up 2 or 3 at a day? Like, walk us through some of that operational side of things.
Right. Yeah, I didn't have, I didn't take a loan. I had like annuities and, savings and stuff from the union. And I took that money and put it into the business. As far as being able to get on a schedule, I mean, just from the years of knowledge, it's like if you play a sport for 25 years, you have all that knowledge built up in your head, right? I mean, when the fish are biting, typically, I mean, that's the only thing about fishing is, it's nature. You can never, there's a lot of uncontrollables, you get weather, you get, all kinds of stuff that's, you know, out of your control. But, you go with the percentages, and I know that, on a, whatever, it might be a midsummer day that, if I start at 5 o'clock, it's better than if I start at 7 o'clock, just all these things that I've learned over the years. And now after doing it for 10 years, I mean, I have it to the point where, like, when you're out in the outdoors doing this enough or doing anything enough, I mean, if you're, a garbage man, you know exactly how to do something after 10 years, I mean, so it just becomes old hat, but in saying that, I constantly learn, I mean, as much as I know, I learn every day of some new stuff. And that's the beauty of it, like, I keep my mind open to the learning of the whole game, and it's not just being a great fisherman is a huge part of this, right? It's just like being a musician, right? I mean, you got to play good music, you got to write, you got to be able to play your instrument well, but there's also a business to it, and that's the difference between a lot of the guides out there and a lot of musicians out there and that kind of thing. It's a lot of great musicians out there, but there's a lot of broke musicians out there. That's
Yeah.
just the truth. I'm a musician as well, so I know how this goes. There's a lot of guides out there. There's a lot of guys that are living in a 800 square foot house and eating bologna sandwiches at night because they're not handling a business. They're just making it as a fishing, and they're not dealing with it from a business aspect. And luckily, through Spence and just through life lessons, I've learned how to run a business decently well, and I'm still learning, but I've added on 3 guys, and I'm probably going to add another 1 or 2 on this year. So I have, 3 to 5 guys working under me. So I also get a profit from those guys that are working under me, but they still make their money and they're still doing fine, and they have families and they have the whole thing. So we're, I call them my partners because really at the end of the day, yeah, I own the business. Excuse me, I own the business, but without them, it doesn't run as solid as it does just me. I can only do so much. I built the business enough to where I needed to bring on a partner back about 6 years ago because I had too much business, and I was greedy, man. I didn't want anyone else getting business, right? I mean, and here's the thing: like, I'm friends with other fishing guides in the area. I like the guys; they're great dudes, but business is business, right? Like, you can call it however you want. Like, you could be, best friends with the hot dog stand down the block, but you own a hot dog stand, you want all that business coming to your business. So instead of being like, hey, I'm booked, sorry, can't handle it, I'm like, no, I can handle it. I got another guy, don't worry about it. And then he became overbooked. And then I booked another guy. And now it's really slimmed down on, in this area. pretty much the only guy that's doing it full time at this kind of rate, you know. And that was just because I don't, you know, it's definitely not greed, because it's business. It's, you know, if you're going to be a successful businessman, you got to have some kind of plan. You know, it was more of like, you know, hey, I know these guys want to come out with me. I need to make that available for them. Right. So therefore I have to, you know, train these guys, or some of these, I mean, these guys who came on were no slouches by any means. I mean, they were fantastic fishermen, and they learned how to be great guides and do a business, you know, and we were all learning together. So, you know, we've taken it now to the next level, where we are the premier guide service in Northern Illinois and Southern Wisconsin. You come to Northern Illinois, this is who you're fishing with. You know, we get guys from all over the country all the time, you know. And like you said, we had Jimmy Chamberlain from the Smashing Pumpkins out the other day, who, you know, I mean, what an amazing dude, man. But it's cool to have people of that stature go, oh yeah, dude, I know who you are. Like, cool, dude. Awesome. Like, you know, so yeah, I mean, it's, you know, in that world, in the fishing world, you know, we're excelling. It doesn't make us millionaires, but it's always nice to feel like you've succeeded in the path you've taken.
Well, you said quite a few nuggets there, and again, I'm a big proponent of taking notes on these, and that's what this podcast is about, right? Is teaching people how to go for CEO, right? And you become the CEO of T-Bone Guide Service. You should a couple things. You know, one of them is just understanding that your skill set created momentum, right? And once you get momentum, I talk about this in some of the videos I've been able to do. Is that's the thing you want to keep, right? And you didn't cut yourself off like a lot of small business owners do, because of perfectionism, because of, you know, wanting to keep everything just by yourself. You don't realize that you are kind of an employee mindset, and you become self-employed, and that's awesome. But you actually went to a business owner mindset, which Kiyosaki talks about. Robert Kiyosaki: employee, self-employed, business owner, investor. So it's interesting that you shared that you had too much business coming in. You started to notice that, because none of us can work, you know, 28 hours in a day. There's only 24 hours, and then you're engaged, and, you know, and all these other responsibilities as a son, and, you know, soon to be husband, and, you know, friend to people, and all that stuff. It can be overwhelming. You saw that scaling side of things. Like, if I could bring in another pro, and again, like you've done before, let go of your ego, and not be the guy that has to be there, but then also make a bit off of that, you know, situation where they take on that guide. You make some money, the business makes money, and the gentleman that you're feeding that opportunity to makes money. What an incredible start, you know, of action. And you also said something that 10 years, you know, a lot of people don't realize, you know, the stat out there is 10,000 hours, right? You take 10,000 hours in anything, and you become a bit of a master at it. So awesome. I appreciate that. You know, tell us a little bit about kind of, you know, again, maybe a little bit of steps beforehand. The marketing was, yes, okay, you know, word of mouth. What did you do? Were you into the internet? Did you set up a website? You know, in these beginning stages, what are you doing to actually get to that volume where now you have to scale with other guide service?
Right. Well, luckily in the fishing world, just like I'm sure in a lot of worlds, I mean, you get to the car world, and there's websites for the car world, or the music world, or whatever it might be. I mean, there's websites for everything, and there's people that are attracted to it. And some of these websites have, you know, a lot of, you know, onlookers, a couple 100,000 or more, you know, and just, it could be in the general area of, you know, Illinois and Wisconsin. So I started to kind of link up with some of these websites and start pushing my name out there, you know, get a subscription, pay a couple extra bucks, and, you know, then I could throw fishing reports up and a little bit of, you know, promo on myself, and became friends with those people. So they started kind of pushing me. And then what happens is you get people from that website, you know, and they come out fishing with you, have a good time, catch some fish, and they go back on. They're like, dude, I went out with this dude. He's a great dude, blah, blah. Then all of a sudden it just starts rolling. It's just crazy how, like, you know, some of these websites really have like a cult following. Like, these guys are all like, you know, literally a keyboard away from each other. And it's like, you know, they post something, and then 100,000 people see it. Not if that 100,000 people, you know, even if 10 come out with you, then they say something, and then they're, it really starts to multiply quickly once you're getting on, social media, basically. Same thing with Facebook and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. It's all marketing, man. And, as long as people are having a good time and they start telling other people, and and that's the other thing, right? We live in the Chicagoland area. The pool of people is giant. It's one thing if you live in northern Wisconsin, you hear about all the great fishing, and that's fantastic. But they have a pool of people that's maybe a 16th of the size of ours, right? Those guys don't stay nearly as busy because I have, 30 million people, whatever it is, within Chicago and the surrounding suburbs that, and fishing is such a huge thing. Everybody and their brother, even if they're not huge into fishing, everyone wants to do it at least a little bit. If it's a nice day, I get the guys who are like, it's July, dude. I have nothing else going on. Let's go fishing. All right, I got an extra couple $100. Let's go. Let's hire this guy. We don't know what we're doing. We don't own a boat. Let's go out with this guy. So the guy who owns, a $90,000 boat and goes fishing every weekend, who's like, this dude knows his stuff. I need to go learn from him. So I got all in between of this huge pool of people, plus the websites, plus we have a lot of trade shows. Like, there's some in Rosemont, there's some in Schaumburg, and they're huge conventions, and they get 50, 60, 70, 100,000 people through them. And you get to talk to those people, and they're like, oh, I followed you. And, there's guys, it's weird, dude, because there's times where I'm sitting there and the guys are like, I followed you on the internet since '09. And you're like, holy crap, like that's crazy. Like they know more about my life than I can even remember, and I'm like, for real? And they're like, yeah, dude, we've been following you. And I'm like, that's wild. I didn't know that there was even that. It's in a much smaller scale, but I could see how like these guys who are musicians or whatever, rock stars, like people feel they know you because of some of the stuff that you've done, and they followed you, and they're like, yeah, remember this time, blah, blah. I'm like, wow, this dude really has kind of honed in on me, and they start talking, and people around the booth hear it, and they're like, oh, this dude must be a somebody. Let's hire him, so it kind of multiplies like that. And at the end of the day, it's all perception, right? I'm just a fisherman. I'm just a dude who goes out fishing and does the same thing that, that I've done for 30 years, just enjoy the sport. And I think, we're going to have, and I tell guys all the time, like, it's fishing, like we're going to have some really tough days fishing. We'll have a good time. I can guarantee the good time, but as far as catching fish, I can tell you we'll be on them and we'll be using the right stuff, but some days they're just not going to bite, so the worst case scenario is you come on my boat, we have a really good time, you learn a bunch of stuff, and then you go home. Mm-hmm. People are like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm in for that. Like, how do I, and it's not a super expensive thing. If you come with two guys, it's really not expensive. It's $275 for a half day, $375 for a full day. So guys are like, yeah, for a couple $100, I'll come out and have a good time. It's either that or go to the bar and spend $200 on, food and beer.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're all in, and it's a very easy sell. It's a very sellable thing. And saying, sell, I learned early that, it's almost like being a salesman, right? Like you're selling yourself. You are selling a product, but I'm not out there selling a product that's tangible, right? Like people come up to me and, there's a lot of fishing guides who are fantastic fishermen, but this coffee cup has more personality than they do. They say 3 words through the whole day and just do their thing, and guys catch fish. When I'm out there, I'm, 20 minutes in already busting their balls. And, I have my clientele that, there's going to be guys who like the fishing guide that doesn't say anything all day because that's how they are. They're introverted. But then I have the guys who are my clientele, and they enjoy the ball busting. They enjoy the stuff we do in the boat where we're laughing. And, some guys have been with me for 10 years now where, I could start talking about, their wife and their kids, whatever. We could ball bust all day long. And it's like, we're friends, and that's just, it's been an awesome road. And it's nice now too, because all the guys that I've fished for this long, those are my clients. Like the guys who are now coming in, a lot of times I just push those to my partners. I have my clientele, and I'm like, here, you guys take these guys, because I know what I'm getting into every morning. Like, I'm not like, oh, is this guy going to be some whack job that, is like, whatever, just being weird. But
like me,
I don't know a whole lot of that. What's that?
So probably like me when I came on the boat, the total.
No, dude, there's some weird people in this world, and sometimes you get them in your boat, and it's not like, you only have to sit with them for 10 minutes. You're stuck in a boat 20 feet away from each other for 8 hours, and you're like, man, I want to start this boat really fast and flip this guy out of here if I could. You know, so like I try and avoid that, which there's not many guys that are like that. I mean, really at the end of the day, like everyone's out for a good time, you know, and guys who are in the outdoors are kind of all built from the same mold, you know, we're all a bit the same. So I've had one or two over 10 years where I've just shook my head and been like, oh, I can't wait till this day's over. But besides that, dude, it's all fun.
I love it. I love it, man. You know, you just shared so many nuggets in there too. Again, I like to flow in these conversations, and you shared the way that you marketed, and then getting into, you know, events within your industry, and like you said, perception is reality, right? I know I throughout the years, the last few years that we've connected a little bit more now, I've seen you speak on radio stations. I've seen you, you know, hear about being at Bass Pro or something like that,
Yeah.
that really kind of builds your brand, right? So we're talking about, you know, advertising, marketing, guys and gals, and we're talking about branding, which T-Bone Guide Service and Chris's brand is really kind of blown up over the last few years. You know, and now you're talking about, you know, when you solidified your clientele, which seems like they're super loyal, they come out very often. How did you transition your pricing model, right? To get a little more technical on the business side to teach people. You know, I'm assuming at the beginning you're like, I don't know what to charge. Okay,
Right.
a couple hundred, all right. But how did you eventually get to where you're trying to say to yourself, hey, as an electrician, I used to make X. So
Yeah.
it X there, and now I know I own my own business. I can kind of, you know, write off some things so I can maybe make a little bit more than X compared to a job. So walk us through a little bit of that.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could tell you. I mean, you know, in the beginning, honestly, John, it was just a matter of me getting people in the boat. I knew that if I can get them in the boat, that I can, you know, I could get them to catch fish and have fun. And it was kind of like, you know, I didn't know how much to charge in the beginning, so I was charging way under what I should have been. After that, I mean, it was literally, you know, going around and kind of looking, you know, becoming friends with other guides. You know, maybe some guys that were up north a little bit, just guys at some of the trade shows I talked to, and, you know, figuring out what, you know, my worth was comparatively, and trying to look at other people's pricing. I mean, you know, that's no secret. Sometimes you got to do that. You look at what other guys are charging and say, you know, how good am I compared to this? Or, you know, what do I think I'm worth? You know, and what do I have to offer that this guy doesn't, or what does he have to offer? You know, how do I weigh this out? You know, and I mean, I'm right in the middle. Honestly, I'm not expensive and I'm not cheap. You know, I feel I'm fair. I think if I go, can I go higher? 100%, no doubt. I mean, you know, it's simple economics. If you have an overabundance of, you know, business, raise your price a little bit. You know, I mean, it's a pretty easy model. But at the same time, I also wanted, I didn't want to price myself out to the everyday working class guy. I didn't want to go $500 and go, you know, hey, $500 for the day, you know. And then there's some guys who are, ooh, man, I'd love to do that, but that's just a little bit out of my price range, you know. And you price it at something like 375, and you get two guys, and, you know, you can get two working class blue collar guys who are making 65, 70,000. And you're like, yeah, dude, I could spend $200 on a weekend. I'm good with that. We might have to save a little bit, but we could do that. Or we plan a little bit, you know. And then I also get the guys who, you know, come out and they are very well off, and, you know, they'll hire me 14 times a year, you know. So, you know, instead of trying to make my money all in one shot, I try and spread it out a little bit instead of someone having to save up. You know, I mean, I get blue collar guys that come out a half dozen times a year because they become friends with other guys. They're like, yeah, I like going out with him too. Yeah, let's go together and we'll split it. All right, so we both split $200 together, you know, and he gets $400 at the end of the day. Like that's usually not out of a range for anybody that's a working class person. And, you know, and then, like I said, I get guys who hire me at a week at a time or 2 weeks at a time, and they're much better, you know, they're more well off with, you know, money. But yeah, I mean, I just looked through, you know, other people's pricing and kind of figured out where I wanted to be, you know. And like I said, I mean, now that I've done a lot, you know, I mean, I definitely have done more guiding than anybody in the area. You know, I've done more. I've done a lot of TV. I've done a lot of radio. I've done a lot of speaking. I've done, you know, I've, like you said, it's all branding yourself. That was a huge part of Spence too. He's like, you need to make yourself a brand. Like T-Bone has become a brand now. So if I am a little bit higher, let's say one guy's 325 and I'm 375, like, yeah, but we're going out with him. You know what I'm saying? And it's no ego to me. It's just, I know that I can get that brand name out there. It's like, well, these shoes are really nice, dude. They're pretty sweet looking, but Nike makes one just like it. Which one are you going to buy? The one that has the brand name to it, right? Like Nike's the one you're going to buy. This one might be just as good, or it might, have some things that you're not sure of, but Nike, so people know who I am and they're like, we're just going to go with this dude because we know who he is. So I felt like my prices were fair.
No, I love it. And, it's a great analogy, right? I remember when Under Armour first came out, I'm like, man, these are generic. What's the UA thing, right? And then I really got into Under Armour just because of the branding and stuff. And now obviously the Rock and all these things that go with. I still love Nike, but it's
Under Armour is dope, man.
That part of it, right? I used to remember the commercials they do with the football players, like whatever they are Under Armour, right? So it was really cool. So let's also take it a little bit further there. You kind of saw that mid to upper middle range. You're bringing in a working class client. You also have the higher end people. Do you also have other services that are personally to you? And walk me through also the difference in pricing, if there is any, that you're also having the other guides come after you, because there is that economy of scales, right? Understanding what supply and demand is and learning business and getting yourself out there. But now when you scale, is there a little bit more that you're doing? Is it the same pricing for everybody? And then you've just worked out a business model where you can override some of that? Walk us through a little bit of that.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, we all are the same price. Our time and our skills are all par. If those guys weren't as good as me or whatever, I wouldn't even have work for me. So for them to be any less than me wouldn't even be, then I feel like if I did say like, all right, well, I'm 375, but so and so's 325, they're like, well, we're not getting the best guy then, are we? We're all on, for what we do, we're all on par, like legit 100% across the board. Some guys have better attributes in different spaces, and like we all have the things that we might not be as good as the other guy's better at this, and you just get a different feel for people. A lot of the same personalities, we're all kind of the same when it comes to that. So yeah, the scale is the same. I get a certain cut off of their top, but it's also not enough to really affect. I mean, basically it's, if they get a tip that day, I'm taking basically the tip off of it, and everyone's okay with that. And, if you add that up over a week or so, that's an extra couple $100 or more in my pocket that I didn't have. And, then I'm making my money. So yeah, the scale is, not only that, but we do offer some things that a lot of other guys do not offer. We do offer, we do fish cleaning and fish packing, which a lot of guide services around here, I don't know if there's any of them that do that actually. We do all that, we do a lot of stuff that, we do seminars. A lot of guys, they won't do anything to really help people catch fish. They bring them out, catch fish for the day, and then they go home. But there's a lot of guys that want to come out and learn, how are you doing this? I will have them sit behind the fish locator, the Humminbird systems that we use, and teach them everything about our electronics. I'll teach them how to use do the electronics on the boat can end up being, $10,000 worth of electronics. And there's a lot of guys who buy these and then they go, man, I really know how to use it. So I'm like, well, all right, come on out, dude. I'll show you how to use it. So they're getting the education of not just catching a few fish that day and going home and still having a boat at home they don't know how to use. There's times where I have guys come out with their boats if they want, and I'm like, here, you drive, I'll show you how to work everything. And they go home and I'm like, dude, I know how to use my boat now. I had no idea. I have this $3,000 piece of equipment. It's a computer in front of me that I had no idea. All I knew how to turn it on and kind of scroll through, and I know how to do it all. And I know exactly what everything's about. So we offer that kind of stuff where there's not many guide services that do that.
And that's built into your price, Chris?
Yeah.
Or is that an added service?
No, it's built in, man.
Oh, okay.
Something that we do that people know when they come out, they're going to get that kind of instruction. They're not just out there sitting around, hopefully catching fish. They're going to get an education if they want it. If they're those guys that just want to come out and enjoy the nice day and drink a beer and, catch a few fish, they could be those guys too. I mean,
Sure.
if you want me to be your water taxi and take you to bar and fish in between, I'll do that too. I'm cool with that. But I also am the guy who will teach you everything you need to know about a boat and electronics and, everything through and through.
Wow. Now, do you guys have merchandise too? I thought I saw a little bit of merch to your business. What are some other things that will you do? Maybe some in these times, a possible Zoom that is a teaching class. Do you get paid for speaking? Like, what are some other things that T-Bone has services and you personally have been able to scale inside the business?
Yeah, we do offer some merch. We do t-shirts and hoodies. We're probably going to get a little bit more merch this year over the winter. They have those trade shows, which now with coronavirus is not going to happen this year. I mean, you can't stuff 70,000 people inside of a place these days, so it's not going to happen. So we'll probably take the money that we spend there and throw it into some more merchandise. We do a ton of speaking, man. I've done it all over the Midwest, which has been a lot of fun. I mean, I get flown out sometimes to Minnesota, Kentucky, wherever, do a couple seminars, and then I do them at convention centers. I do actually, what's today, the 8th? I know I got another one coming up. What's that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I have one coming up, I think Tuesday or Wednesday that I have to do. And yeah, we get paid for them. Sometimes, honestly, John, we get paid more for speaking than we get paid for fishing, which is ridiculous. I mean, it's great, but it's the same thing, right? I mean, there's guys who, I know that are athletes or, whatever, and they're like, oh yeah, I get paid X amount of dollars, and it's more than you get paid in a day. There'll be a club or convention say, hey, come out, dude, I'll pay you $1,000 if you come out here and speak for an hour, twice a day, and you're going to feed me, like it works out. Like you've made that brand, and it's also like a band, right? You got to draw. People are going to come in, they're going to pay the ticket prices. It's just like being in a band. It translates very well. Where like if I draw 1,000 people into a bar, and they all have to pay $10 to come see me, the bar's made 10,000. They're going to give me $1,000 or $2,000 to do it. It's the same kind of thought. I could draw people in. You're making money off of them, their drinks or this and that, and here I am, and you're paying me an X amount. So yeah, we do a lot of public speaking, which is especially in the wintertime, it helps out a lot because wintertime can be so hit or miss when it comes to weather and fishing in the Midwest here. So it helps as an extra little nut.
You being in the Midwest, excuse me, do you do ice fishing too, right?
Yeah, we do, which is a lot of fun, man. Honestly, for most people, they think like, man, I don't want to sit on the ice, and we make it fun. We have permanent shacks. We have heated shacks. You get in there and it's like, yeah, it's like sitting in a shed and it's warm, and we get pizza and beer and all this other stuff. We bring it out for the guys and they're having a good time. A lot of times we get bachelor parties and birthdays and all kinds of stuff where guys are like, oh, dude, I had a blast, and
That sounds awesome, man.
it is, man. It's a lot of fun. We do 5-6 hours on the ice, and then, by noon or whatever, they're going home and napping and going out at night or whatever, so we do a lot of that. We try and make everything like an event, we try and make it fun, not just like, here's a bucket, dude, go sit on the ice and see what you catch. And there's ice guides that are like that. Here, enjoy. And they come back an hour later. How you doing? Well, they've been sitting somewhere warm, like that's not how it rolls. Like we're out there doing our thing and entertaining and, pitting guys against each other and like that guy's way better fisherman than you. We're always pitting guys against each other and just making it a good time. That's kind of our thing. So
Friendship and business, man. Dude, I'll tell you, I'm learning a ton. I'm really excited to get this episode out there because I mean, just the intricacies of taking a labor of love and turning it into a business, and the way that you actually think about things. I don't know if you give yourself enough credit. The ability to entertain, educate, put someone in a situation where I didn't even know that there was heated tents. That I would think to myself, well, if there's heated tents and there's a blower, isn't the ice melting? How do you not sink in that? How do you test the ice if it's thick enough to actually sit 4 or 5 guys in one place? I'm sure there's mastery to all that stuff. So wow, what a cool story and journey for a business owner that wants to start something like that. Tell me a little bit about kind of, and this is sometimes the boring part, but I'd like to get into it a little bit. is the accounting, the operations side, meaning, you start making money in any business. Initially it's kind of a hobby that you're turning into a business. You actually went all in, so you kind of put all your eggs in one basket, as you said earlier. But how do you start to manage the money side of things, and especially when you start to have people that work for you? Do you have a good accountant that you kind of had to vet out over the years? You
I
know,
do.
how do you set up your structure? Are you an LLC, an incorporation? Just give us a little bit of taste of that. I know a lot of people don't like to hear about that stuff, but this we want to teach people how to go for CEO. So share a little
Right.
bit of what you've done on that side.
No, I mean, yeah, I think having a good accountant is everything, like I have a good accountant. And actually, I don't know if you remember Mark Calabria from back in Melrose Park days, but Mark is my accountant. And
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I have to count on him because that's his area of expertise. I can fish and I can run a business, but when it comes to handling the money, I need someone like Mark to tell me, okay, dude, you need to do this, you need to do that. If I had to think about all that too, it'd just be overwhelming. So having somebody like that is extremely important. Um, and then obviously I have the wife where, I'm the guy that if I have $500 in my pocket, probably by the end of the day, I'll have it spent somewhere. So I go home and I just hand her the money and I'm like, here, give me whatever you can afford to give me, and then we'll go from there. So, you got to have other people sometimes step up and do some of that for you, because I'm not amazing with money, you know, and I believe, especially for people like me, to have a good accountant and somebody like that as a wife to, control some of the money is a huge thing. Or else, I'll make X amount and spend, you know, just as much as I made, because you have that money burn a hole in your pocket.
Sure,
So
sure. Well, we
yeah,
all
I
we all
really
grew up
think,
modest, right? I mean, you get $500 one day, you're like, yeah, rich, right? Or I'm a,
right.
tell me right now, did you automatically set up a separate bank account? Did you incorporate? How are you structurally set up?
Yeah, so I have an LLC, and yeah, I did have a separate bank account, and
Yeah.
that all that money from the business goes there. And also it's a cash business, so you also have to be careful about, shouldn't say this on air, but you also, having a cash business, you don't want to put every dime into the bank and show the government exactly what you made, right? I mean, you want to, having a good accountant is very good in that aspect too. Like, you know, I mean, as far as if the government thinks I make 100,000, then I'm gonna have to owe the government, you
X.
know,
Yeah.
X amount of that 100,000. If they think I make 30,000, now we can kind of talk a little bit more. And I'm like, all right, I have no problem, paying you that much because I made X amount. So yeah, I mean, with the cash business, you have to kind of be a little bit savvy and have write-offs and have a good accountant and not put every dime into, I mean, if you got groceries or something, right? Instead of taking it and putting it right to the bank, take that, $200 and just go spend it at, the grocery store instead of putting it in the bank. I think that's a very important thing to remember, especially in cash business. I'm sure it's a little different. I mean, I know guys who own cash businesses that do extremely well, where they're in seven figures. And the same thing, man. There's these guys sometimes have, 15, $20,000 in cash on them.
Mhm.
Because if they put that in the bank, I know guys, I mean, obviously there's different levels of business, but I know guys who went and just bought cars because they can't put that money in the bank. They're like, I mean, I know a guy who owns a restaurant who's like that. He literally every day has like $20,000. So, dude,
Yeah.
I gotta go buy a car. Like, must be rough, dude. Must be rough. Yeah, yeah, I gotta go
Fine.
buy a car.
And I mean, that's part of business, right? So you have different types of accounting, cash accounting and accrual accounting, and then you
Mm.
have your cash part of your business. You have your, I'm assuming you guys accept credit cards offhand,
We
or
do. We accept credit cards and I mean, checks, the whole
yeah.
9 yards. But 95% of our business is probably cash.
Oh, okay, interesting. And part of that too is, I don't know if it's been something, I'm in the business finance world and the personal and business finance side of things. And sometimes dealing with a small business owner that might be cash, right, intensive. You when you look at their tax returns, it doesn't justify buying a $400,000 home, or getting another $150,000 boat. right? I don't know if they're that much, but
Yeah, right.
what I mean is justifying the debt service compared to what you're making. So, as you grow and as you scale, you've kind of figured out your formula, which is awesome, right? And it's working for you, and you have the right account, and you set up your entity with an LLC. The website. Is that where you do your merchant stuff and your booking of your events, or is it all? Do you have a virtual assistant? Or does Gina help you? How does that work, side of things?
Yeah, Gina helps a lot. The website is a nice addition, but yeah, most people, like, if they want merch, they just call me, say, hey, dude, what I got to do to get a shirt or a hoodie or whatever. Or if they, call for a trip, hey, man, I'll bring them out with me. I'll have them in the back of the truck. Hey, man, I like that hoodie. Can I get one? Yeah, sure, no problem. And that's just a good way to do it. I don't really do anything over the internet because I don't do it in that amount of volume where it's, and not to say that I don't want to, just at this point, it would be so much more of a headache than what it's worth. If I had to ship out 50 hoodies a week, it would just drive me insane. And for the extra couple $100, it would just drive me, no, I don't want to do that.
And there might be some automation to that, right? Just to think about, right? I know
Yeah.
that there's some services where either maybe I don't know if it's Shopify or some other things, but linking some services where if they get your merchants, it actually is fulfilled. They have fulfilled by Amazon type of things, where you might think about that side of things where your merchant. Now, have you worked on your logo a couple times, or have you always had the same logo?
Same logo.
Okay, throughout the process.
Yeah, I've had the same logo since day one, basically. And we've put that on 2 different style hoodies now. I wouldn't mind doing something a little bit different here and there just because now it's been 10 years and, but it's nice also to have that brand, but make it a little bit different, maybe just, update something. Who knows? It's something that's going to be on the agenda to talk about this winter because we're not going to be spending the money on those trade shows, which could be a little bit expensive. Stupid dog.
I love it. So awesome, brother. Well, hey, look, one of the things that we would like to start, ending the podcast on is the goal for CEO, starting to build a brand in a business, is client experience. He is employee or contractor engagement. I don't know if your guys are necessarily employees or they're more contractors. And then O is operational excellence. So you've given us a taste how you treat your clients, but what would you say if you say T-Bone Guide Service, someone's watching this, they're like, holy cow, man, like his customer experience is incredible. What's the differentiator, that you could share with us? And then we'll go to employee engagement or contractor engagement and then operational excellence.
I'm sorry, John, just repeat the question.
No worries. So the first question is basically the C for CEO is customer or client experience. So you kind of touched on that a little bit in the podcast today, but going deeper, like what is the brand that you're giving out and what is the service, the difference, I guess the differentiator of what T-Bone Guide Service offers to the client experience?
Again, I think a lot of that is, the education, the education and the experience being that, we're not just coming out and saying, hey, let's go fishing and, here, if we don't catch fish, man, like, oh my God, like this is the end of the world or this, we didn't complete our task. Like you're coming out to have a good time, right? That's what you spent your money to do. Like initially, if you come out fishing and you catch a bunch of fish, but you didn't really have that great of a time, you're like, I don't know if my money went in the right position, right? But if you come out, have a really good time and catch fish and learn, now you're like, it was worth every penny, right? That's where I think that we certainly separate ourselves from everybody else. That's huge. Is every business you have to separate yourself from the others, whether it's, like music, man. Like if you sound just like Pearl Jam, yeah, you're good, but then you're just another knockoff, right? Like you have to be something different and people want to spend that money on, that. They don't want to, if they're going to spend money on something that's like Pearl Jam, why not just go see Pearl Jam? Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the way I kind of look at it is, we've created our own brand by being who we are. We all have our own personalities. Hold on a second. Jake, knock it off. My dog's old and senile.
I love it. So you've kind of broken it down, right? Why T-Bone Guide Service is just unique in the marketplace. You're dominating the upper Midwest, Illinois area, Wisconsin. I mean, as you said it, you've got clientels that are super loyal. They're coming out 10, 15, 20 times a year. You've got merchandise, you got all that stuff. So get us into more now the employee engagement. I don't know if they're technically employees of yours or if they're 1099 to you, but how are you treating that, and why are they staying with T-Bone Guide Service and not just doing their own thing or even going to another service?
It's a good question, man. I think like anything, when you're a happy employee, you're a good employee, right? And even though yes, they they technically are, I guess, employees, we're all friends, we're all partners, we all work together. Um, we go out together, we hang out, we drink beers together, we go watch sports together. So it's, they come over with their kids. We're all friends now. It's not I don't act like I'm a boss. I'm not like, well, I said this, so like when somebody comes up with something, and I always present it this way. Like if they say, hey, what do you think about this? I'm like, well, let's bring in the rest of the crew and talk about it, and we'll go from there. Like I rarely make executive decisions. Once in a great while, I might be like, hey guys, this is what we're going to do because this is the way I feel it should work. Most of the time it's like, hey guys, let's talk about this. What do you think? So when you give them a sense of ownership, right? And, and the reason they don't go anywhere else besides that is the fact that, if they want to try and go do it themselves, now they're competing against what they just built.
Mm.
I mean, they have helped build up the name T-Bone Guide Service, and they know that if they, went off and said, hey, now this is, Andy's guide service, then we're like, oh, who are you compared to T-Bone? I'm saying? Like these guys have a whole network, and that's the other thing with fishing, right? Like you have a network of guys. Like, if there's 4 of us working together, we all know where the fish are at because we're all out there doing it. Now you're trying to do it on your own, and you're gonna somehow fall off a little bit. So people know that we're all out there doing it daily. Some of the guys live on the water, and so it'd be really hard. Not only that, but it takes a lot of the money and pressure off them, right? I mean, all they have to do is wait for me to go, hey man, you got a trip tomorrow at 9:00, be there, blah blah, this is the guy's name. Okay. There's no brain work in it, dude. I don't make them promote, I don't make them do any of that. It's basically everything comes into me and then I send it out. It's like going into a shop as a construction worker, right? Instead of drumming up your own business, you wait till boss calls, you say, hey, be there at 6 a.m. You're going to be working on such and such building, and I'll see you later. Do you want all the other responsibilities, or do you want the 6 to 2 p.m. job?
Yeah. I mean, you made it simple and engaging for them. And like you said, you brought some heart into it where they're connected to you, they're connected to your family. You build, incredible rapport and a family structure. So awesome. So let's end with operational excellence. Obviously you just said it, what are you doing as the owner, as the CEO, right? With Gina and helping out, and your accountant, you're doing all this stuff. So give us a little bit of the differentiator for T-Bone Service and how you're making your operations excellent as well.
You just said it, basically having the right people surround you, right? I mean, having the right crew, you got to have that, man. You can't do everything yourself. And I think that's what, makes a lot of people who run a business kind of unhappy at times is, one of my good friends owns a business, and he said it, he goes, the best part about owning your own business is you get to pick which 18 hours of the day you want to work, right? And that's it. So you have to make it not that sometimes, right? Like and there's times where you're grinding, man. And I mean, it doesn't matter if you own your own business, if you work a lot, whatever it is, you're going to work a ton and you're going to do it. But you got to have more time for your family. You got to have more time for your friends. And, you got to split that up a little bit between, accountants and between, maybe a spouse or whatever it is, kind of break up the workload a little bit so that you have time to live and not just work. I try to, work to live, not live to work kind of thing, and I have a lot of extracurricular things that I do outside of my business that I'm not willing to give up. And at the end of the day, money is a fantastic thing. We all need it to survive and to keep pushing forward. At the same time, it's not everything. Like, I'd give up a little bit to be happy. Like, if you wrap your head around around happiness, sometimes you don't need quite as much time in the office or work, because your satisfaction comes from other things other than money, right? I mean, so I try and break it up a little bit where I'm not constantly working. I surround myself with a really good crew, excuse me, and make sure that all the pieces are in place. First couple of years of any business, like the first couple of years, I wasn't around much. I was grinding. I was out either fishing or working or doing something with the business for the first 3-4 years, where I was, now having a kid and, all the other stuff, man. I need to break that up a little bit. So I think that, anyone who's doing a small business has to think about, the future of, do you want to keep working 18-hour days? Do you want to keep working 16-hour days? Or do you want to have some of that time with your family and, maybe hire somebody on, or maybe, count on somebody to take some of that workload, and you got to have the right people. You got to know that, first of all, that no one's going to treat your business like you treat your business, but you got to find somebody who believes in the business and wants to do it, like a good accountant like Mark is for me, or, good partners like I have. So, I think that's a huge part of it. Remember why you're doing it. There was times where, I'd work 65, 70 days straight and be like starting to lose the, not the love, but it becomes a job, anything you do, so I wanted to keep that. And, I didn't want that to come across to my clients every day where I'm getting in the boat and I'm just beat tired because I worked 16 hours a day before, and I come in there and I'm like, oh, all right, guys, let's go fishing. Like, I had to somehow break that up so that when I walk out, I'm like, what's going on, fellas? I'm all happy to be there just as they are, because for them, this is a vacation. This is their vacation day. They looked forward to this all week or all month or whatever it was, and they want it to be a good experience. So I don't want to be Debbie Downer walking into the boat tired and beat. So you got to, get the workload that, and then you don't also want to come home every day and be like, oh my God, I'm going to bed. And now your family's sitting there looking at you like, oh, I remember that guy. He used to come around once in a while. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of, there's a lot of breaking things up and putting time management, and I think, especially us as Americans, I think we get very caught up in the bottom line and the dollar, and forget about living instead of other things.
I love it. What a way to end. Thanks so much today for really sharing the story of T-Bone Guide Service, sharing your own personal story as well. And one of the things that we do with Gopher CEO, Chris, is we want to follow you over the next 6 months, 12 months. We'd love to bring you back on. Maybe the weather breaks and Corona and all this craziness, right? But actually, I'd love to even come on the boat and share a little bit closer perspective of what you're doing. Give them a little bit of inside scoop what the day in the life of Chris and T-Bone Guide Service, and being a client of it that day, and do some recordings on it. So I'm excited to. Part of the Gopher CEO journey is going to be to take all these interviews and literally go 5, 6, 7, 10 years, hopefully. And every 6 months, check in with that business owner. Check in. Maybe you scaled to 4 or 5 more people. Maybe you're doing more merchandise. Maybe you scaled now your website so that it's fulfilling by itself. All that type of stuff. So I want to learn and have people learn about what you're doing in business, and also a little bit of personal as well. So thank you so much for joining us, and I really appreciate. Any final words for the audience?
Yeah, why don't you come out fishing, man? 630-330-9090. You can go out fishing and talk about it in person.
Love it. And give the website also.
It's tboneguideservice.com.
And the number?
630-330-9090.
Sounds simple enough. Hey guys, you heard it from the man. The guy's built a legendary business. It sounds like, he took all that love of being a childhood and having a mentor in his grandfather, now uncle, quasi uncle, right? Teaching him and showing him. Now he's just really just doing it and loving it and building something incredible, and you can too. So thanks so much, everyone. Have a good one, and Gopher CEO. Subscribe. I don't do this enough. Subscribe, click the like button, leave a comment, and share with Chris what you learned about today's